From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we take a look at Super Bowl 56, the lessons the Broncos hopefully learn from this. I think what all teams tend to look at because the league is built on parity after all. And the Rams win this thing 23-20. And I mean, it's so interesting because the way these two teams built their rosters are so different, right? Yet at the same time, the Rams, two of their biggest draft picks, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, actually were the biggest differences. Both of them had strong candidates to be MVP, but of course we know the trades for Matt Stafford, the trades for Von Miller, a lot of the key players that they've added to that roster enabled them to eventually win the championship, where the Bengals have basically built most of their roster through the draft. Few key free agents, no question about it. But I thought we'd take a look at those two teams for just a second and say what's the big takeaway for you and what the Broncos maybe should learn from it.
Well, the big takeaway to me is you've got to protect your quarterback, period.
Huge.
That is the takeaway. You got to be able to rush the quarterback. You got to be able to protect the quarterback. And the Rams were able to do both those things. The Bengals were not. And that's really, at the end of the day, was the difference in the game. In the second half, Raheem Morris, they made some adjustments. They came out and what they were doing put Cincinnati back on their heels. Cincinnati is actually a very average offense, but they got big chunk plays at an alarming rate this season. And when you take away the quarterback's ability to get those big chunk plays, they become a pedestrian offense. They literally were worse than the Broncos at converting on third down. Literally worse than Denver.
Yeah, Joe Burrow was sacked 19 times in the playoffs. That's the most for any quarterback in a single postseason in the last 20 years.
Most sacked quarterback ever to play in a Super Bowl, as in he had the most sacks coming into that. That offensive line is bad. I mean, the offensive line for Cincinnati is bad. They've gotten away with it by getting those big chunk plays at the right time throughout the season. Things just lined up for them. And, you know, if they don't fix that offensive line, and it starts on the inside because those guards were getting beat like they stole something, if it starts on the inside. If you don't get that fixed, you're going to be the same. I mean, I doubt you make it back to where you made it back to. I think there was a combination of being a talented football team, but a lot of lucky breaks went their way to get to where they were.
What do you think the lesson is at quarterback? Because obviously that's one of the big decisions here for the Broncos in the offseason, what they're attempting to do, what they're attempting to add to the team. What is your lesson, your takeaway, not only from the Super Bowl, but even from just the playoffs?
You got to have it. You got to have the quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't think you have the quarterback. You can't hope you have the quarterback. You have to have a guy you believe in. And that's it. I mean, period. You look at those teams, every one of them has got a guy they believe in, outside of San Francisco, who's transitioning to the guy they believe in. But the rest of them all have a guy that they felt like they believed in. And the Broncos, were hoping that they could believe in a guy. And that's the difference. You got to have a guy that you feel confident in that has the ability to put up 25 points a game. If you're not able to put up 25 points a game, you're not going to make the playoffs. One team that didn't average 25 points made the playoffs. That was the Titans.
And it felt like you needed that kind of quarterback that can be the difference maker when you need him. It doesn't mean that they have to always be the difference maker at all times, but they got to be able to make plays. That's right. Exactly right. And so there's going to be moments where you need that leadership. You need to be able to lean on their talents and understand that maybe the opposite of that, sometimes their defense is going to be the thing you lead on. And so it's interesting for the Broncos because they have had that one side of the equation. They've had a good defense. They've been trying to build the offensive line, but they really have just completely missed on the quarterback. So what the biggest lesson I came away from it is definitely the offensive line. It's a very good one. But it's like, hey, look, this is a team game, especially in the postseason, but you need the quarterback and you need a defense that can take care of some things when things are – because there were some moments in that game where the defense was the difference maker. The defense was getting their offense back out on the field. They were – I mean, look, Matt Stafford threw 2 interceptions in this game, and they still won the game. The fact remains is that's how good the Rams defense was when they were out on the field. They were a difference maker. 7 sacks from that group. And they, again, they didn't make all the plays, but they made enough plays. So it just seems to me like it's about the quarterback, it's about the defense, and as you put it, the offensive line.
Well, and you got to be able to protect the quarterback too. Like I said, the offensive line. Doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, and we all know Joe Burrow's good. If you can't protect him, he can't make plays.
Well, yeah, I mean, that last play is a perfect example, right?
Exactly right.
The 4th and 1, Aaron Donald might have been a little offsides, but whatever. The 4th and 1, where Jamar Chase is running wide open because Ramsey fell down down the right sideline. No time. No time to throw it.
That's exactly it. It doesn't matter. Your secondary can be the worst secondary in the world if you're getting to the quarterback every time.
Yeah. So. And that's a little bit of a lesson here for the Broncos, too. As we speak about that, they need to look at pass rusher here in the offseason.
That's going to be a priority. They've already started. They actually started today with the draft meetings, and that's going to be a priority for them. The edge rush, the quarterback, they're looking at right tackle. So.
Well, I mean, those are the top priorities. Now, I guess how you prioritize them in draft versus free agency, I think that becomes the more interesting conversation because you need probably a little bit of mix of both.
Probably, but you're going to look and see how deep you think this class is, what picks you think you're going to have, and whether or not you can attain certain targets and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you're basing, I think, right now a lot around what's going to happen at quarterback. You've got $40+ million available to you in salary cap space. You might have to use a majority of that on the quarterback potentially. Of course, we talk about the different options in trade or free agency or that you can structure things in a way. There's different ways to do it, but the fact remains you're going to probably have to add at least all three of those in free agency, and then you're going to be adding again in the draft. Maybe not a quarterback necessarily if you add one of the bigger names, but yeah, I mean for the Broncos right now, it's like I sort of feel like the talent of the roster overall is roughly where they want it to be. It's young, it's unproven. They need that quarterback to make the difference. But 100%, there are definitely some positions that the Broncos are going to have to take a really hard look at and add in the offseason if they really want to go to the level. By the way, most sportsbook out there have the Broncos either 6th or 8th in best over odds to win the Super Bowl. Why do you believe that?
The books believe that there's a good chance the Broncos get Aaron Rodgers. That's exactly why it is.
Yeah, well, although in one, they have the Packers slightly ahead of the Broncos.
Well, you can take the Packers bets right now and then drop them back. I mean, either or, you can drop them back. But as of right now, you believe that you want to hedge the incoming money, not just in case. So that's why they kind of are hedging the money on both.
Yeah, I think at least it tells me also that there's a belief in the Broncos roster that even if they get Aaron Rodgers, it's not like it's a rebuild situation, like some people try to paint it as the Broncos are in the midst of a rebuild. That's just not the case, and that's not how the Broncos view it either.
No, not at all. The Broncos are at the beginning of a window. The idea that they're in the middle of a rebuild is ludicrous. I don't know who made that up. But.
Last thing here, coming back to the Super Bowl, and just some final takeaways from that. For both of those teams, I think the Rams and the Bengals are sort of positioned to be good for a little while. How do you, and what's the lesson for the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl? How do you sort of maintain that? How do you keep it together?
Well, that's the question. The magic formula: be young, be on rookie deals, because there's going to be guys that want to be paid based off their Super Bowl run and performance. They want to cash in, and I think you've got to learn how to let those guys go and how to have a replacement ready when you have to let those guys go.
All right. Well, the Broncos enter their off-season program now where they're starting to put together the plan for the next season. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.